The juice box. He's got to be better than that loser from Pittsburgh.
Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And yes, you heard it here first. Well, Michael Cole told it to you first, but this is the Juice Box, a loser from Pittsburgh. And welcome to the show today. This is definitely going to be a primarily WrestleMania weekend recap. I am recording this as AEW Dynamite is about to air, so any news and notes from AEW, I will drop them here inside this episode of the Juice Box. But one hell of a WrestleMania weekend. Michael Cole, we'll get into that in a moment. But as always, you can follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet, at JuicySteen on YouTube. And if you can listen to this show, Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go to iTunes or on Spotify, leave a rating and review. It does help the show grow. Also listen to the show Amazon Music, juicysteen.podbean.com. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everybody that was a part of the WrestleMania week here at the Juice Box. That is Brian, Jay, the Main Event Maniacs guys. They did a wonderful episode detailing the WrestleMania 35 main event of Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda Rousey. A shout out to Josh Eisenberg, Justin LaBar, the Chair Shot Reality guys coming in to do the WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2 predictions. Staggered two separate episodes over 2 nights. You know, WrestleMania does it, why can't we? And felt that it was a lot of good stuff, a lot of intriguing material as we led up to the weekend of all weekends. Also like to thank Pool Party Gaming, the official pool party pick'em for WrestleMania. That's, you know, in collaboration with the Juice Box. And we had an overall winner for Night 1, an overall winner of Night 2, and then the combined overall winner for the duration of WrestleMania. 3 separate winners. I do want to relay those names. Night 1, we had the champion, B. Flory, 0529. We had Night 2, champion, the Requiem 7X. And then the all-told WrestleMania champion, MVP Matty P. You may know him as Matt, the guy who I've brought up on here numerous times. I've known him for a very long time. I was the best man at his wedding. And do not get that misconstrued as if it were a work for him to win this, because of all the people that were playing this, he is the last person I would have wanted to come out as a victor, even though I was happy for him because of the countless times he entered and lost the Wrestle Rumble pools all throughout the last 10 to 15 years. So, good on Matt, good on Brian, and good on the Requiem, I believe, Brad, for winning all the prizes for the WrestleMania Pick'em at Pool Party Gaming. Great turnout, over 100 different entries, free to play, free to win. Shout out to those guys. Josh Eisenberg, of course, being boots on the ground in Vegas on Night 1 to help facilitate getting some more people involved. And I would say it was a success all across the board. So I'm looking forward to more of these pick'ems going forward. Additionally, just, you know, anybody that interacted with me over the last couple of days through the Juice Box feed, or, you know, hearing that reference on WrestleMania from Michael Cole. One hell of a weekend, all told. I'd like to get that Michael Cole bit out of the way. He, you know, Minute Maid. Hey, if you're out there, Minute Maid, look, here's the pitch. The Juice Box is an entity. It's a wrestling podcast for the fans, by the fans. We love sipping all types of juice. High C, Capri Sun, hell, even Minute Maid, you know, coming into the juice realm over the last 35 years. And Minute Maid had a section of fans at WrestleMania entitled The Juice Box. And, what better way, I feel, than to get Minute Maid and the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen on board for some sort of collaboration. But, hey, the ball is in their court. I enjoyed seeing that little representation called the Juice Box. There's no trademarks involved. This is all fun and games. And I had a couple of people, tweet at me and text me and be like, did you see that? Are you watching? And then, lo and behold, Michael Cole with that famed line. And we'll play it again right here to hear what Michael Cole said about the Juice Box.
The Juice Box. He's got to be better than that loser from Pittsburgh.
It's the loser from Pittsburgh that really, takes it over the top for me, personally. So, shout out Michael Cole for an unintentional burial of the Juice Box. I could not have been more thrilled to hear that entire sequence and segment. But enough about me and enough about the show. Let's get into the show of shows, which we couldn't even get into before some crazy news dropping. I do want to mention the Hall of Fame. It was great to see Lex Luger get inducted. Natural disasters, Michelle McCool, the immortal moment of Brett and Steve Austin. Of course, Triple H getting inducted last. I enjoyed what I saw. I rewatched a lot of it and thought it was a great representation of the past, the past, the present, and somewhat of the, more current with the Triple H, Michelle McCool era. Getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. But early Saturday, a bombshell. Last week we also had AEW announcing that they're going to do Grand Slam in Mexico, a collaboration show with CMLL. But WWE said, hold our cerveza, and announced the acquisition of Triple A. They had Vaquer, Rey Mysterio, the LWO, Penta, Vikingo, Andrade, numerous Lucha Libre talent at the desk during the pre-show announcing the acquisition of AAA. An unbelievable acquisition out of literally left field. I had no idea this was even coming down the pike. I don't know how many people did know it was going to happen, but it did. And they are already doing a Worlds Collide PLE of sorts, June 7th in LA, which will precede Money in the Bank later that night in LA at the Intuit Dome. So Kia Forum and then Intuit Dome, huge shows back-to-back, June 7th. Looking forward to those. Those are the next, announced PLEs for WWE because Backlash happens in a few weeks, as a matter of fact. And we'll talk about that hopefully at some point. This is going to be pretty much a recap of everything that happened at WrestleMania plus what happened on Raw to kind of bookend everything. Like I said, this will air Friday. This is airing Friday, so SmackDown hasn't happened yet. Who knows what they're going to dive into with that. I'm sure more debuts. We have a TLC match as well. And anything on the AEW front that happens during this recording, we will discuss it because that is what's happening as I record this episode tonight. But the acquisition of AAA, a lot of people were upset. A lot of people were thrilled, as many, things that happen in pro wrestling under the WWE ID or, GCW doing a show with ID guys, and I don't know. Everybody's either, wow, this is great for pro wrestling, which is kind of where I stand, or it's, WWE's trying to do that monopoly thing and have everything in their disposal, and I just don't subscribe to that being the end-all, be-all at this moment. I don't know if this is what the goal is, but if it happens, it happens. It is what it is. So who knows what happens with the AAA and WWE runnings from now on. Like I said, they're going to have the Worlds Collide show. There's going to be some other stuff, I'm sure, going on. So we'll discuss that as we go forward. But we get to WrestleMania. Let's get to the main course here of the juice box. Man, I will say this: night one was doing okay for itself. Nothing too great, nothing awful, and then the main event knocked it out of the park. Concluded night one with a wonderful main event, triple threat match. Night two, by far, outperformed night one on the mid card side, but the main event kind of deflating, kind of disappointing, and we'll talk about it. Jey Uso begins the show tapping out Gunther to win the World Heavyweight Championship. Look, no one saw it coming. I was happy for Jey Uso. I like the fact that Jey hit moves that Gunther would to win the match, to win the title. Again, with the tap out of left field. My only issue was that Gunther tapped so incredibly quick after being, put into the hold, and I just felt like, damn, I don't know, kind of a missed opportunity. You just get a little bit more drama. I know it's WrestleMania. You want to make a statement, but get the crowd anticipating Gunther potentially passing out. Instead, he taps out pretty immediately. Honestly, it was pretty abrupt, as a couple other finishes seem to be, as we'll discuss as well. But Jey Uso, Gunther, I thought it was a good match. Gunther took his rage, for lack of a better term, out on, initially Michael Cole, which, again, I could not be more thankful for Gunther standing up for the juice box and this loser from Pittsburgh to attack Michael Cole. Yet Pat McAfee, another loser from Pittsburgh, comes in and gets involved, and he gets choked out by Gunther on Raw. Don't know if this is going to lead to a match or some animosity, or if Pat can select someone for Gunther to face, but I am intrigued for sure, and don't know really what else that means. The New Day won the World Tag Titles, defeating the War Raiders. The War Raiders were in Clash of Clans gear. The New Day were in Giant Gonzalez homage gear. Loved both of their outfits. And the New Day get the cheeky win, winning the World Tag Team titles once again. 13-time champions in the tag realm. The Dudley Boys are the only team ahead of them, which is pretty insane. But damn, the New Day, even as heels, really doing a lot. This was a highlight for me. Jade Cargill versus Naomi. They got Weather Channel legend Jim Cantori, the guy they throw out in the middle of hurricanes, to do, report on the weather, report on storms, He's out outside Allegiant Stadium. He's got a little graphic, and boom, he, kind of announces there's a storm coming, and it was none other than Jade Cargill. And I thought her and Naomi had a good match. I'm still not all in on Bianca being 100% innocent in the proceedings in regards to the Jade incident, but Jade gets the win. Jade hit an incredible stalling jackhammer, and I quipped Cargillberg, but man, it was just a wild, very well done performance by Jade. Some will complain that she didn't get too many, too much particular offense in, or that Naomi just kind of got left behind. But I don't know. I think Jade's aura, her sheer power, the look of her, will really take her further than I want to say, fans will give credit for. So yeah, I don't know. I like Jade. I like the match. I like these two paired off. I still don't think Bianca is completely innocent. So we'll see where that translates coming up, probably on SmackDown tonight. But up next, arguably my favorite match of the weekend outside of, whatever happened on night two. Jacob Fatu defeated LA Knight to win the U.S. title. This was under 11 minutes. It showed so much of what Jacob Fatu can do. I give a lot of props to LA Knight for some of the work he did as well. And it was just a spectacular back and forth match. Again, I really felt that it put both guys over and on the map, even though LA Knight's been over for a few years now and Jacob Fatu's ascending rapidly. This is really, really a strong performance for both. And it was just cool to see Jacob Fatu get the win as he did. But yeah, I think Jacob Fatu is going to be a huge star. I'm looking forward to these title defenses. I'm looking forward to Solo getting involved at some point and, maybe wanting something from him. I really like the direction. And LA Knight frees up him. Could he be going for a world title at some point? With Jey Uso as champion, I think it lends itself to who knows what will happen. On the other side with Cody, Cena, all that, I think that's way too muddied at the top of the card for LA Knight to get there at the moment. But I'm not going to rule anything out just yet. We also, man, this night was very interesting. El Grande Americano defeats Rey Fenix. Now, it was supposed to be Rey Mysterio. Mysterio gets injured literally the SmackDown before Mania, right? This is such a disaster. They plug in Rey Fenix. Rey Fenix still loses. He loses his first match on WrestleMania, one-on-one. Man, it just, I don't know. We'll see where El Grande Americano goes from here. I don't know what the plans were with Rey Mysterio, if Rey was going to win or not, but it is what it is. I enjoy the gimmick, but I don't know if I necessarily agree if Rey Fenix should have taken the loss here. But it is what it is. That's what we're going to do. So, decent match. It could have, I don't know. I'm not sure if Rey Mysterio could have given him a better match in regards to what they were going to do or whatever. But like I said, Rey Fenix gets the loss. It was cool to see Rey Fenix and Penta both getting singles matches. Well, matches as a solo wrestler on WrestleMania after, just arriving within the last 4 months, both those guys. So, more power to them. Tiffany Stratton came out in a Barbie-themed Mattel box. Again, it was sponsored by Mattel. It was cool to have that happen. She comes out, spectacular entrance. Charlotte comes out in a car. I was remiss. LA Knight came out in a car as well. Cool little entrance there. Tiffany Stratton gets the win over Charlotte Flair. I'm not sure if I'm going to believe some people that, Charlotte was sandbagging or it wasn't doing, everything that they were supposed. I don't know. I'm not going to subscribe to that necessarily. I will subscribe to the fact that I was pretty on with Tiffany Stratton winning this match, becoming a huge star just by being in the match, but by winning, by defending the title against the greatest of all time, having this happen. And it elevates Tiffany to another level. And again, with SmackDown still happening tonight, I don't know what they're actually doing in regards to these women, but we shall see moving forward. I do want to say we had the WrestleMania attendance night 1, 61,467, which was written on a giant note card that Shawn Michaels read, which was really, really funny. I don't know. It was just hilarious. But Tiffany Stratton gets the win. Let's talk about the main event, though. This is really the coup de grace here. CM Punk gets an amazing, amazing vignette leading up to him coming out to Cult of Personality live by Living Color. What a wonderful vignette over the last 15 years, showing him rise through the ranks, do this, do that, and really just being an integral part of pro wrestling for the better part of 20 years. Even when he leaves, people still chant his name. He's so over. And, it was really cool to see that. Apparently he was moved to tears in the back. And it was what it was. It was just a great, great video, great vignette. And we get the match. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, CM Punk. This was a war, triple threat, all over the arena, and it came down to, a ref bump, and as soon as that kind of happened, you had an idea, oh boy, what is going to happen? And what I prophesized, a lot of other people prophesized it too, but to see it actually come to fruition was pretty cool. And that was Paul Heyman not only turning his back on CM Punk, low blow to Punk, a low blow to Roman Reigns, gives the steel chair to Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins walks out as winner. He needed to win at Mania, and he did. I think it was probably one of the greatest triple threat matches in WWE history. Off the top of my head, Mania 20, Mania 30, Lesnar, Cena, and Rollins from Royal Rumble 2015. That might be it. TLC, that's a triple threat TLC match, but just straight up one-on-one, I don't know. I don't know how many other matches. I'm naming them right there. There's probably 4 or 5 of your top triple threat matches of all time are all right there. So, this was an amazing match. It just proved a lot. It proved Seth Rollins could go. It proved that Paul Heyman still has a lot left in the tank in regards to, I can be with this talent, old talent, new talent, Seth Rollins now, and we'll take this to Raw, and Punk comes out, Roman's, everybody's out there again after Rollins. Who takes out Roman Reigns but one Braun Breaker? We'll talk about him and his unfortunate loss of the Intercontinental title on Sunday night, but it left the door wide open for Braun Breaker now to potentially join Seth Rollins in an alliance of sorts with Paul Heyman at the top. It's happened before, and I think it's happening again. I think we're getting some sort of dangerous alliance. Seth, Braun, you might get a woman in there. You might get a tag team in there. I don't know what you're going to see. But with Paul Heyman at the top, I think you have set yourself up for a very, very strong 2025 on the Raw brand. Assuming it stays on Raw. Who knows if it goes to SmackDown. But I do have a feeling that they're going to continue it on any and all brands for these PLEs. But I don't know. Braun getting involved, all these things happening, I truly think it's, the best move for business. Felt night one was pretty damn good. Like I said, Triple Threat pretty much carried it. And I'll bring up a tweet later, but night one was a WWF main event in the 90s, or a WWF pay-per-view in the 90s. A rough mid-card, nothing really underneath, yet the main event was incredible. And then on night two, it was more of a WCW pay-per-view where the undercard was unbelievable, incredible, fascinating, yet the main event left a lot to be desired. But we'll talk about that here in a little bit on night two. But I did want to unfortunately pass along this news note from earlier. Unfortunately, one of my favorite people in the pro wrestling space as a WCW fan, the one and only Steve Mongo McMichael, lost his battle with ALS. He was put into hospice care earlier as of this recording, April 23rd, and right before I went to begin this recording tonight, he unfortunately passed away. I mean, he fought so damn hard. He was a football player for the Chicago Bears for a bunch of years, and a lot of wear and tear on his body. He was involved at that WrestleMania 11 interaction with Lawrence Taylor and Bam Bam Bigelow. He's a part of that football crew. And then Mongo gets to be on the first Monday Nitro as an announcer. an Emmy award-winning announcer. That's how they kind of hyped it up, and it was really funny to see people guess who could it be, and it was Mongo. And it's not to say that he was a letdown, but it was just unexpected if that's who you'd pick. But man, he had Pepe, his little dog that he would bring around, and always would have him dressed up, and it was a wonderful interaction he'd have with Pepe every single week to see what Pepe would be wearing in coordination with Mongo. And then on the wrestling front, he was a member of the Four Horsemen and a true member. And I like Paul Roma, but way more of a Horseman member than Paul Roma ever was. Him, Benoit, Arn, Flair, or Dean Malenko sub in one of the others. Great Four Horsemen group. Mongo won the United States title at Clash of the Champions 35, the final Clash of the Champions event for WCW in August of 97. He wrestled Goldberg at Starrcade, which is pretty interesting. Mongo did a lot. He really did. And it's just really unfortunate that something got to him in this health crisis that he had. And it's just really sad. I don't really know any other words, but just a really sad end to a very successful and unique life. I will say this, because we've all seen the criticisms of Mongo couldn't wrestle. What the hell was he doing in the ring? What the hell was he saying on commentary? Yet I always felt that he was incredibly authentic, because he couldn't. It was not in Mongo's fiber of his being to be somebody else. He was just, I'm Steve McMichael, I'm Mongo, this is exactly how you're getting it. You like it? Great. You don't like it? Too bad, And being unequivocally themselves is an endearing trait that I see in people, and Steve McMichael absolutely had that in spades. So, unfortunate for the passing of Steve Mongo McMichael. May you rest in peace at the age of 67. Let's get back to the WrestleMania of it all, Night 2. Man, this was interesting. We started off Night 2, and I also want to mention this. WrestleMania Night 1, all 50 of the United States and 68 countries in total were represented in the crowd at WrestleMania on Night 1, which is such an incredible reach. For certain, avenues, whether that's just where people are buying tickets, where they're traveling from to do all these things. It's really damn impressive to see, and I don't know, people just want to trash on wow, WWE is just going global and everything's expensive and no one can afford it, and how are the regular fans out there gonna do things? And I'm a regular fan. You gotta make it work. If you don't want to go, you go. If you don't want to go, make a good financial decision. I'm on board with that too. But to say that they're failing is just inaccurate. So let's get to Night 2. And Night 2, starts off with an interesting match, to say the least. We kick things off, like I said from earlier, that juice box segment. Minute Maid bringing the juice. Minute Maid, you know where to reach me. Let's make something happen. But we started off with the triple threat: Io, Bianca, Rhea Ripley, and damn it, again, another great triple threat match. These three were unbelievable. Bianca looked great, Rhea looked great, Io Sky looked incredible, and gets the win, walking out as Women's World Champion, as I was hoping for, and it happened. So that really made me happy to see Io get this big moment. And we'll talk about it in a little moment, but the best matches on both nights of WrestleMania were a triple threat, and a fatal four-way. And there are so many damn people out there that just complain so hard about well, why does WrestleMania need all these multi-man matches? It's just to get people on the card. They're not even going to be good. Why even do it? The best matches all weekend were all triple threat matches or fatal four ways. I'm not even counting the NXT triple threat main event like at Stand and Deliver. So there's so many good things that happen from multi-man matches, and I just don't subscribe to that as a thing. Like, it is what it is. If there's good matches, they're good matches. If the right people are involved in the multi-man matches, it will perform well above the expectations. So just let things play out and go from there. So that's all I have to say in that regard, but happy for Io Sky. We get the Sin City Street Fight. We had Slayer, guitarist, bring out Damian Priest, which is really cool. Drew McIntyre did another one of those, tweeting during the match things and got a huge reach on that, I believe. Let's see, at this moment, 12 million views, which was wild. But yeah, people, and here's the other thing with the earlier match with Bianca, there was a lot of boos with Bianca Belair, and to me, whenever I see people saying, why are they booing Bianca? She doesn't deserve this. Why would they do that? You guys aren't right for booing her. First of all, it's pro wrestling. Let the fans do whatever the hell they want to do. Second of all, I feel like a lot of fans are not convinced, as am I, not convinced that she, Bianca, pronouns pal, was innocent in the Jade Cargill thing. I fully believe Bianca Belair was a part of that with Naomi, and they have just not revealed it yet. So if you're being sus, people are going to boo you. Tough. I have no, to quote Scott Steiner, I have no sympathy for you. And I just felt that was a ridiculous thing to complain about in that regard. So, whatever. Let's go. Drew McIntyre gets a big win over Damian Priest. We'll see where that takes Drew in the upcoming weeks. Because, again, like I said, SmackDown hasn't happened yet. We don't really know how much else we're going to really dive into in regards to finding out certain things, especially since Raw had a couple of cool things happen, but not everything was covered from Mania to then Raw. We still have 3 hours of SmackDown to touch on. But good match, fun little street fight. Let's get to the Fatal 4-Way. Dom Mysterio pins Finn Balor to win the IC title. Dom is a star. He's been a huge heel, but now he's a beloved star in my eyes. I know they probably won't change him to be a heel or a good guy all of a sudden, but I do believe that more fans are going to be on board with him being the champion. And we'll just have to see how it plays out, much like we have to do everything else, because he got such a huge reaction after winning the title. He then runs back to the ring to soak it in again. Just a great, show of support from the fans. Kind of a support from Dom, being like, look, you guys were around at SummerSlam 05. You watched me as the pawn in the ladder match for the custody of me with both my dads, Ray and Eddie, but you supported me all throughout. Now I'm wrestling, and you guys supported me then. I'm the biggest heel. You guys have made that happen, really, by the jeers and the boos. And now I won, and you guys made it so special. Like, I think Brian Alvarez said it was one of the biggest pops he'd ever heard. And he was there when Triple H hit the pedigree after the Sweet Chin Music on Taker at Mania 28 to almost end the streak. So, with that being said, that's one hell of a pop to surpass. But Dom is beloved. Looking forward to seeing what he does. He retained the title this past week on Raw against Penta, so I thought that was cool. And, of course, there was outside interference. He's a heel. So, of course, he was going to get that assistance. Again, I don't know. Sometimes these hardcore pro wrestling fans, they say that they're huge wrestling fans, yet when things that have happened that are, tropes, aka things you've probably noticed throughout even a year of watching pro wrestling, when they happen again, these fans are all of a sudden like, well, how could that happen? Why would they boo Bianca? You know, why would Dom get this win whenever he should have won clean? Like, he's a heel. He's gonna win dirty. Bianca, I think, did the deed with Naomi to put Jade out of commission. So I think that's why they booed her. Like, things happen. Wrestling's cyclical. It comes back around, and like, it is what it is. So, good on Dom. Looking forward to seeing where that title reign goes. Here's another point of contention. Randy Orton has an open challenge because Kevin Owens cannot wrestle. Who shows up? It could have been anybody, right? It could have been anybody. But in a weekend that showcased AAA and some other avenues in the pro wrestling world, considering the WWID and GCW and all these things, none other than TNA World Champion Joe Hendry shows up. He's the open challenge. He loses in about 3 minutes. And I would say it was a glorified squash, but the pop for Joe Hendry was amazing. Randy Orton sold the music. He sold the mannerisms. He even did the Joe Hendry look back at the end of the match. And I think Orton kind of handpicked Joe Hendry out of the people that he could have had face him. So to me, I see this as a net positive for Joe Hendry, considering TNA's world champion got a match at WrestleMania. Never happened before. He got a match against the future Hall of Famer, 14-time world champion, who, spoilers, is wrestling for the world title, the WWE title, as a matter of fact, at Backlash in St. Louis. So it's like, boy, if Joe Hendry's going to lose to anybody, at least it's a guy that's potentially going to win his 15th world title in a month. I was just in a lot of little battles with people on Twitter over Joe Hendry looked like a geek, and oh man, how could you sign off on that if you're TNA? Because millions of people saw it. Because Joe Hendry is the world champion and got beat by a guy who's a higher level than him, but it's a different company. So you can't say, well, world champion to world champion. It's the same. It's equal playing field. It's not, and you know it's not. You just don't want to accept that WWE gave an opportunity to a TNA world champion, and even though it didn't turn out with as much offense or whatever you dictated it to be, that you're pissed off that WWE did it the way they wanted it to go, and yet it still got a lot of eyeballs on Joe Hendry, a lot on TNA, and now they can run with that moving forward to help themselves out. So, again, these wrestling fans that just act as if none of this stuff's ever happened before. No one's ever collaborated before. No one's ever been booed for suggesting that they're a heel. No one's ever gotten dirty wins as a face or as a heel that just won the championship as a face. Like, what do you expect? Not everything is going to be a new idea. It's a form of entertainment, and all forms of entertainment are cyclical. They come back around. All ideas are recycled at some point or another. Very few original ideas come down the pike as time progresses. So just relax. So I like that. Logan Paul, AJ Styles, kind of underwhelming. Logan Paul gets the win. I was underwhelmed, I gotta say. I felt this match could steal the show, and it just didn't do what I felt it needed to do, unfortunately. But Logan Paul gets the win, and I don't know. I am liking the potential of AJ Styles kind of winding down in WWE. Whether that means he goes to AEW, that's a big potential. I am almost in the camp of, why couldn't he just, AJ Styles that is, pronouns pal, why couldn't AJ Styles challenge for the TNA World title one more time? Wrestle at Bound for Glory one more time. Why couldn't that be a part of the farewell for AJ Styles as he potentially can conclude his time in WWE? So I'm on board with whatever AJ Styles does next. And that's my favorite thing, is not necessarily seeing how things culminate, especially at an event like WrestleMania where everything culminates, but what's next for the winner? What's next for the loser? What does WWE or AEW or TNA, what do they have for the future for these wrestlers that have had such, interesting comings and goings leading up to this point? Now it's like, all right, what's next? What's the next avenue for them? But again, I kind of felt that the match lacked a bit, but It was what it was. We then get Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch returning, winning the women's tag titles from Liv and Raquel. A couple things. I'm not going to make this longer than it needs to be. Bayley was not injured. She was taken out of the match on purpose. It was, quote, how it was all along. And then Becky comes back. It's a great moment. They win the tag titles. But then on Raw, they lose the match. Becky turns on Lyra, and it looks like we're going to get Becky as a heel looking for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. So I'm thrilled that we're at that stage. I don't like that we wasted a title win in a moment and a title loss for that matter and a Bayley removal just to get to this point of Becky being in the IC title picture. I just... I don't subscribe to it as much as I feel like I would have liked. But it was a good moment. It was interesting. I will give WWE that. I just wish it would have, gone somewhere else. But let's get to the main event. Cody, John Cena, WWE World Heavyweight title. Watch this with Josh Cross, Josh Eisenberg, Donnie, among others. And this was interesting, but I'll just flat out say it. It was disappointing. John Cena wins. I'm not surprised at that. Travis Scott made an appearance. I'm not surprised at that. Although, hey, they call it a run-in, not a walk-in or a stroll-in or a crawl-in. My God. Travis Scott needs to learn some timing if he wants any sort of future in the pro wrestling business. In my honest and not so humble opinion, I just feel like there's so many problems. I think that we could have had. Oh, by the way, no Dwayne, no The Rock. He didn't show up, and we'll talk about what he said on McAfee on Tuesday. But I don't know. It's just so deflating. Cena has a plotting match, a plotting style as this heel. I did love that he came out to his theme, yet the Titantron just said John Cena in white lettering with a black background. It was very generic, and I love that. Nuance, attention to detail, or lack thereof. Cody's mask was badass, kind of automatically popped open there. But like I said, the match was plotting. You got 4 AAs, a brass knuckle shot, or a belt shot rather. Brass knuckles were in another match. But yeah, a belt shot. The Travis Scott receipt from Cody was just like a crossroads when I felt it should have been a punch or a chair shot, something. It just didn't seem like it paid it off as well as I'd like. I thought Travis Scott should have come down with Cena, like in Cena's entrance for the match as part of his entourage. And now knowing that Rock wasn't there, and I'm going to read this to you. These are some of the notes from the Pat McAfee show. The Rock said that he could have been involved in the Mania 41 finish, but instead wanted the spotlight to be on Cena and number 17. The Rock said that Ari Emanuel, the CEO of TKO, called The Rock for help because ticket sales for Elimination Chamber in Toronto were slow and wanted something must-see. Let's just pause that for a moment. I don't agree with that. If you thought an Elimination Chamber in Toronto wasn't going to do big business, then you should have just done it this way. You should have just built it the same way. Built it with Cena winning the Chamber as a babyface, getting that one more opportunity, going to WrestleMania, and just leave that how it was. I don't think you needed what happened there to happen. Because then you don't have The Rock show up. You don't let that be a thing. You don't need it to be a thing, in my opinion. I think it would have done just fine. It would have looked great. I think they are just not pivoting, but they are making excuses for the sake of making excuses. So you have Cena win the Chamber as a babyface. And, Cody could even be there, and he could be like, wow, Cody versus Cena, one-on-one. This is like Warrior Hogan. And then at Mania, The Rock comes out, and Cena turns heel to win the title. I think that would have just been better. It would have made more sense. It would have made if Cena turns heel at WrestleMania to win number 17, I ultimately think that would have been the greatest moment or like the biggest possible moment they could have come up with for WrestleMania. Turning John Cena heel so that he could win his record-breaking 17th world title in the same match would have been so epic. And I think we'd still be talking about it. We would not have the discourse that we've had the last couple of days about it. So I just think they could have done it a lot better. Unfortunately, they didn't. But that's fine, too. Let's talk about this. Rock says he wants Cody to eventually turn heel because of, quote, how smart he is, and he pitched that Cody selling his soul, but Triple H decided to go with Cena instead. So Rock throwing Triple H under the bus is a unique thing. These two have gone at it, at least in ring, since 1998, yet it seems that it's TKO versus the WWE side, and The Rock versus Triple H in a behind-the-scenes type deal where what are you going to do? Who's really in charge? I also hate, by the way, that we get this bizarre, why is it that Rock has to say, we want, Cody's going to turn heel in the future? I don't want to hear something like that. They're already, and we didn't talk about this yet, but we'll briefly touch. WWE is doing a series on Netflix called WWE Unreal, and it's going to literally take you behind the scenes of the WWE creative process. They showed boardroom meetings. They showed dry erase boards with potential matches, multiple nights on WrestleMania, all that stuff. Right? They're already peeling back the curtain more than they ever have. Yet I still hate it when The Rock's like, well, we're going to turn Cody heel at some point. I don't want to hear that. Why can't it just organically happen when the fans are like, wow, we really love Cody. I'd hate for him to ever turn into a bad guy. And then he does it, and it works. Whenever you're just like, oh, at some point he'll do it. All right, at some point he'll do it. We know it. We can't wait to pull the trigger. Like, it's just, you are deliberately saying it's not up to Cody. It's up to you. And it's at the their expense of what happens on the show. The Rock also said he understood when they saw Travis Scott, they thought maybe The Rock would come out, but he would definitely have adjusted things a little bit more. He liked the finish, but, quote, he would have gotten there differently. He said he called Cody and Cena after Chamber to say, I think the final boss work is done. I don't know what the hell that means. And then he also said he was watching WrestleMania at home. Not a lot of people were happy with what The Rock said, and rightfully so. It always comes off as when things go right, well, man, we planned this for so long. I got to this person. We said this is how we've got to do it. We've got to make it to where we do this. And I said, you know what? We got to have it this way. And then it played out just how we wanted it. Or things go a certain way. The fans hate it. And then everybody behind the scenes goes, wow, well, you know what? We got to let the fans have their opinion. But if they would just let this thing play through, they would see the vision. We're in inning 3. They don't know what's coming up at WrestleMania. Does it look like the WrestleMania season has begun yet? Have you felt that yet? Does it feel like the road to WrestleMania yet? Stuff like that, when they make it so apparent that they come off so damn arrogant of, we know what we're doing, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you want, we know what you want, we know wrestling better than you. And even if that is true, I don't think it's smart to phrase it in a way where there's no possible way that they can be in the wrong. If it works, they praise it. If it sucks, they say it was on purpose. There's no way of getting around that. And if you buy what they're saying all the time, I think that's a little naive of you as well. So do what you can to kind of navigate your way through the weeds that is The Rock, Triple H, TKO, Endeavor. So, I don't know. Somewhat disappointed, like I said, with the Mania Night 2 main event. Night 1, the main event was unbelievable. We'll get to Raw quickly here. Becky, turns. She's going after the IC title. Rusev returned, which is really, really cool. Takes out takes out Tozawa and Otis. Rusev Day is back. We're only 1 week in. We'll see what happens. Stephanie Vaquer seems like she should be on the main roster all of a sudden. Like I said, the Gunther thing was amazing. Dom retains his IC title. Rollins and Braun Breaker become at least the beginning of a potential alliance with Paul Heyman. And then John Cena comes out. He does his little shtick, wears the title backwards, which I really like as a little, a really unique nuance to his character. But Randy Orton comes from under the ring, hits an RKO. We are off to the races. I think it's absolutely going to be Cena versus Orton one more time here in St. Louis for the WWE World Title at Backlash. They've had countless matches before. I've seen them at Bragging Rights 2009, 60-minute Iron Man match. I've seen them at the Royal Rumble in 2014. So I've definitely seen my fair share of Randy Orton and John Cena, and I quite like their interactions. My favorite was probably No Way Out 08, where Randy Orton got himself purposefully DQ'd to win and retain, or to lose the match, retain the title as they go to WrestleMania. So I love that. I don't know. What's old is new again. As I said, wrestling is cyclical. Orton and Cena has been done to death, but I am here for it here. And look, Cena has said it as much. He wants to retire as champion, make WWE have to get a new belt. He says, I've got so many dates left, and he's counting down the dates. It's very open with what they're doing. No amount of money could get me to work another date past 2025. So we'll see how it all plays out. I'm willing to see. I was disappointed with WrestleMania Night 2 and how it ended, but I'm not convinced that they can't right the ship in a certain way. So, man, what a hell of a weekend, though. We covered AAA. I want to say Sabu had his final match. Shout out to Sabu. Crazy no-rope barbed wire match against Joey Janela at Spring Break 9. AAA gets purchased. Pool Party Gaming, shout out to those guys. Shout out to the Main Event Maniacs guys, Brian and Jay. Shout out LeBar, Eisenberg for the work that they did on the prediction show. Shout out to Flory and Brad and Matt Presto for winning the WrestleMania Pick'em. And shout out to Michael Cole for once again talking about how the Juice Box is better than that loser from Pittsburgh. So as the loser from Pittsburgh, I am going to sign off here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm sure I forgot or didn't mention some items. But look, I did the best that I could covering the whole weekend within an hour, not to go too long, and present a little bit more next week. We'll have a little bit more of an open episode next week with some more items following Dynamite. SmackDown will have happened. Another episode of Raw would have happened. And probably another episode of Dynamite by then. So we'll absolutely get to a point where I can discuss more than just WrestleMania. But it is what it is. This is post-WrestleMania. This is what we're doing. And I really appreciate you guys reaching out and subscribing on YouTube at Juicy Steen, Twitter at Juicy Steen, at Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of the Juice Box covering this whole big entire weekend. Anytime you want to get in contact, I mentioned those earlier, at Juicy Steen on Twitter. So for me, I am Juice Springsteen, and I hope to see you guys next week with another edition, and a little bit more focused edition of the Juice Box. That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.